Welcome, explorers of Second Life. From Weird Fantasy number 21, we begin with a tale of infinite what ifs. Plainly Possible unveils a man who peers into a device, unlocking parallel worlds where every choice unfolds. Step into this unknown with me at Stag Brewery and Dollar Spotted Cafe. My name is Walter Thurman. There are only a few minutes left for me to tell you my story, so I'll make it short. Listen carefully. You may not believe it, but it's true. Every word of it. It began when Ruth, that's my wife, and I were driving south on the first leg of our long anticipated summer vacation. It began with the roar of our convertible as it sped along the winding highway doing better than 70. It began with the sudden loosening hulk of the trailer truck swinging wide round a curve blocking the road. It began with the screaming of tires on concrete, the blood-curdling shriek of my wife, Ruth, and the sickening impact of metal and glass splintering against metal and glass. Next thing I remember, I was coming to in a darkened, clean-smelling hospital room. I lay there for a moment, trying to remember how I got there and listening to the moans from the bed across the room. Then my blood froze as I heard my name. Walter. Oh. Ruth. That's Ruth. Doctor, somebody help me. I remember the anxious footsteps hurrying to answer my frantic call, the blinding light snapping on, and the doctor bending over me. My wife! That's my wife! How is she? Is she badly hurt? Will she be alright? Your wife is still in a coma, Mr. Thurman. All we can do is wait and see. Now you'd better get some rest yourself. You've been badly shaken up. I remember the doctor calling for a hypno, sinking its hollow needle into my arm and pressing the plunger. This will make you sleep, Mr. Thurman. Ruth! Ruth! And then the darkness closing, empty blackness, deep, silent. Roo, roo. And the next thing I remember is opening my eyes to the sound of somber voices. She's dead. Poor thing, we did all we could. Ruth, my darling Ruth, lying stiff and white on the opposite bed. For a moment I was too stunned to say anything, too shocked to move. Then as they covered her lovely young face with the cold white sheet, I screamed. No! No! Oh God, no! Mr. Thurman, he's conscious. I remember leaping from my bed and running painfully to the rigid body across the room and flinging back the sheet and falling upon it, kissing the face, the hair. Ruth, Ruthie, you can't die. Please don't die, my darling, please. You got to control yourself, Mr. Thurman. We did our best. She suffered from internal bleeding. There wasn't anything we could do. I remember them pulling me back to my bed and wheeling her out while they held me down. Ruthie, come back! Give him a hypo, nurse. Yes, doctor. The blackness again. Merciful blackness blotted out pain and sorrow and all feelings save the feeling of peaceful, silent emptiness. And then, Mr. Thurman, can you hear me? Mr. Thurman. Huh? Who are you? He sat up upon my bedside, a small man in a white coat with flaming eyes that twinkled behind rimless glasses. My name is Dean Warburton, Mr. Thurman. I am the hospital laboratory technician. I build and repair all the electronic medical apparatus used here. Go away. But I've come to help you, Mr. Thurman. I've heard about your wife. How could you help me? Could you bring her back to life? No, but I could send you to where she is alive. What? Where she is alive? What in the blazes are you talking about? Where? I could send you to the possibility plane, where your wife still lives. Possibility plane? What's that? There were, as I see it, 4 possibility planes resulting from yours and your wife's accident, Mr. Thurman. 4 possible outcomes. 1, you both lived. 2, you lived and your wife died. 3, your wife lived and you died. And 4, you both died. These possibilities came into existence when you crashed, and they were like 4 different roads. You took the second possibility plane. You lived, your wife died. Now I could change your possibility plane, send you to one where your wife did not die. First possibility plane, the one where we both live, you could send me there? I could, but that wouldn't be wise. Then there'd be 2 Mr. Walter Thurmans when you got there. No, I would want to send you to the third possibility plane. But that's the one where she lived and I died. How could I explain my sudden reappearance? I can only send you, Mr. Thurman. I cannot tell you now how to act when you get there. I remember listening to Mr. Warburton have on, telling me of his theory that every incident, every action here in our world immediately creates new possibility planes that actually exist in some sort of dimensional strata. Frankly, I couldn't understand it at all, but I did know one thing. I want my roof, that's all I know. Then you agree? Come, follow me. I followed Mr. Warburton down dark hospital corridors to a low door marked Electronic Lab. He swung it open and we walked in. 17 years I spent building and perfecting my possibility plane transverser, Mr. Thurman. Here it is. It it certainly looks impressive. Just one thing, Mr. Thurman. Once you are sent to the next possibility plane, there will be no returning. You see, my machine only sends. It cannot bring back. I don't care, as long as I go where Ruthie is alive again. Now, when you arrive, you'll find yourself in this hospital. Everything will be exactly the same, except that your bed will be empty and she will be in hers, sobbing and grieving for you. From there, it is in your hands. I'm ready, Mr. Warburton. Mr. Warburton gave me two round metal objects to hold. Wires running from his complicated apparatus were attached to them. He fiddled with the controls. Take a deep breath, Mr. Thurman. A click, that's all. Just a click. I looked around. Mr. Warburton's machine was gone. My hands were empty. Huh? Mr. Thurman, what are you doing out of bed? I left Mr. Warburton scratching his head. I hurried down the hall towards my room. Something was wrong. If I had been transported to the other possibility plane, to the one where I died and Ruth lived, why wasn't Mr. Warburton surprised to see me? I opened the door to my room. Good Lord! Both beds in the room were occupied. Ruthie sat in one, humming softly and combing her hair, but in the other a man sat smiling at her. A man who looked exactly like me. Gasp. No wonder he wasn't surprised. Mr. Warburton of my old possibility plane sent me to the wrong one. This is the one where Ruthie and I both lived. And now here there are two Walter Thurmans. Suddenly I knew what I had to do. There was no going back. Mr. Warburton had said that the only other thing was to get rid of that Walter Thurman, take his place. I hid in a room closet in the hospital corridor until Ruth and my other self, the Walter Thurman of this possibility plane, were asleep. Then I stole into their room. What the? Shut up, fool. I wrapped the bandage roll tight around his mouth, silencing his outburst. Then I dragged him to the elevator. Sorry, old man, I have to destroy you. The elevator let us out in the basement. I dragged him to the furnace, swung open the door. Won't be anything left of you, only ashes in a few moments. Pushed the struggling body into the searing flames and slammed the furnace door shut. Yes, the gag must have burned away a moment before he died, for the cellar was suddenly filled with blood-curdling screams. The scream changed everything. Cellar vanished. I opened my eyes. I was lying in my hospital bed, covered with perspiration. The doctor was bending over me. There, Mr. Thurman, you've been having a nightmare. Huh? I've been dreaming? Turned over, staring across the room at the sleeping figure of my wife. Then, then my wife didn't die? Your wife is fine, Mr. Thurman. You're both fine. Mighty lucky, I'd say. I dreamed it all, the whole thing. Ruthie didn't die. Mr. Warburton never came to me. It was all a dream. Walter? Ruthie, honey! This evening I watched, smiling as Ruthie combed out her hair. The doc said we're mighty lucky, honey. I guess we are, sweetie. I hate to think of what might have happened. Four possibilities that kept running through my mind, and then Ruthie was snapping off her bed lamp. Night, Walt. Night, Ruthie. I don't know how long I lay there. All I know is I suddenly felt the bandage upon my mouth, tight, gagging me, and I was staring up at a figure, as if I was looking into a mirror. What the? Shut up, you fool. There isn't much time left now. He's dragging me to the elevator down into the basement. He stands before the furnace, swinging the huge door open, and I feel the heat upon my face. There won't be anything left of you, only ashes. And I know that he has come from the second possibility plane, as I dreamed it, and that in reality I am in the first possibility plane, and that there is no possibility of my escaping. End. And so the worlds multiply, each plainly possible, a path, a mirror of fate. A wild ride from weird fantasy number 21, but our journey continues. Next, a picnic on Mars that hides a darker truth. Stay tuned. Hold fast, Second Life Voyagers. Still in Weird Fantasy number 21. Ray Bradbury takes us to Mars with the Millionaire Picnic. A family seeks a new dawn, unpacking dreams under alien skies. But what if the stars whisper goodbye? Let's uncover the tale. Somehow the idea was brought up by Mom that perhaps the whole family would enjoy a fishing trip. But they weren't Mom's words. Timothy knew that. They were Dad's words, and Mom used them for him. Somehow, immediately there was a tumult and a shouting. At quick as jets, the camp was tucked into capsules and containers. Mom slipped into traveling jumpers and blouse. Dad stuffed his pipe, his eyes on the Martian sky, and the three boys piled, yelling, into the motorboat. Hurrah! Picnic fishing trip! Careful, Mike. Robert. Come on, Timmy. Dad pushed the stud. The motorboat sent a humming sound up in the sky. The water shook back and the boat nosed ahead. Timothy sat beside Dad, his small fingers on top of Dad's hairy ones. Dad had a funny look on his eyes as the boat went up canal, a look that Timothy couldn't figure. How far are we going, Dad? 1,000,000 years. Gee. Yeah. Mother pointed one soft long arm. Look, children, there's a dead city. Wow, golly. The dead city lay dead for them and them alone, drowsing in the hot silence of the Martian summer, and Dad looked as if he was pleased that it was dead. The city was a futile spread of pink rocks sleeping on a rise of sand, stretching lazy crumpled arms out 3 miles, petering finally into a dribble of collapsed pillars, a few tumbled wharves, one lonely shrine with images stole from it, and then the sweep of sand again, nothing else for miles. I don't see any Martians. There aren't any Martians. But there are, Timmy. Just then a rocket went up like a stone thrown across a blue pond, hitting with a scar of flame, falling deeper, deeper, and vanishing. Dad, look! Isn't that the Earth rocket, Daddy? Yes, son. Dad got a scared look in his eyes when he saw the rocket. He gritted his teeth, adding speed to the boat. That was the last Earth rocket. Dad stared after the disappearing speck, looking up at the sky. You couldn't tell a trace of the war. Couldn't see the men fighting and the slaughtering each other like hung pig carcasses, gushing hot salt blood. What are you looking at so hard, Dad? I was looking for the Earthian logic, common sense, good government, peace, responsibility. Huh? All up there? No, I didn't find it. It's not there anymore. Maybe it'll never be there again. Maybe we fooled ourselves that it was ever there. See the fish? Mother interrupted, pointing. There rose a soprano clamor from all three boys as they rocked the boat, arching their tender necks to see. A sliver of ringfish floated by them, undulating and close like an iris, instantly around food particles to assimilate them. Just like war. Dad looked at it. His voice was deep and quiet. War swims along, sees food, contracts. A moment later, Earth is gone. They sat still and felt the canal water rush cool under them, swift and glassy. On both sides of the canal they saw the great oxygen vines and bushes sowed by far-seeing Earth scientists 50 years before, and only now profuse enough, active enough, to give Mars a thin atmospheric shell. When do we see the Martians, Daddy? Quite soon, perhaps. Maybe this afternoon, maybe tonight. Don't mislead the children, William. The Martians are a dead race. How can you... Oh, no, they're not. I'll show you some Martians, all right. Timothy scowled at that, but said nothing. There was no fathoming the alien thought patterns of grown-ups, but 10-year-old Michael, who was decorated conspicuously with the medals of Mendelian skin coloration, freckles, pursued the subject. What do they look like, Daddy? The Martians? You'll know 'em when you see 'em. Timothy wondered. They were going far on this outing to fish, but there was a gun in the boat, and this was a vacation. But why all the food? More than enough to last them years and years? A vacation? But just behind the veil of vacation was not a soft face of laughter, but something hard and bony and perhaps terrifying. Timothy could not lift the veil, and the other two boys were busy being 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds, respectively. Robert glaring. No Martians yet. Nuts. Dad had brought along an atomic radio. It functioned as an old principle. You held it against the bones near your ear and it vibrated, singing or talking to you. Dad's listening to it now. His face looked like one of those fallen Martian cities, caved in, sucked dry, almost dead. He gave it to Mom to listen. Her lips dropped open. What's wrong, Dad? Mom? Timothy looked at them both questioningly. Dad blinked wet eyes. It's all over. The radio just went off the atomic beam. Every station on Earth is gone. The air is completely silent. It'll probably remain silent. For how long, Dad? Maybe your great-grandchildren will hear it again. Dad just sat there, and the kids were caught in the center of his awe and acceptance. Finally, he said, Mike, pick a city. Pick any one of the cities we pass by. Okay, Dad, but which one? Pick the one you like the most. You too, Robert and Timothy. You pick the city you like the most. I want a city with Martians in it. You'll have that, I promise you. Dad's lips were for the kids, but his eyes were for Mom. They passed 6 cities in the 20 minutes. Mike liked the first, but this was vetoed because everyone doubted quick first judgments. The second city nobody liked. Tim liked the third. The fourth and fifth were too small. The sixth brought acclaim from everyone. This city, yes, gosh, look at that. Yes, this is it. Yes, Alice? Steering the boat to a landing a flat, Dad jumped out. Here we are, kids. This is ours. This is where we live from now on. From now on, Dad? Well, what about the Earth rocket? What about going home? Dad placed the atomic radio to Michael's blond, pear-shaped skull. Here, Mike, listen. I don't hear anything. Nothing. Dad nodded. That's right, Mike. Nothing. Nothing at all anymore. No more home, no more rocket, no more Earth. Michael considered the lethal revelation and began to sob little dry sobs, unoiled as yet by tears. Wait a minute, son. I'm giving you a whole lot more in exchange. What? Dad waved his arm towards the 50 or 60 structures still standing in the dead city they'd chosen. I'm giving you this city, Mike. It's yours, for you and Robert and Timothy, all three of you, to own for yourselves. Ours? All ours? Did you hear that, guys? All for us. All of that. They hurried into the great pink stone city, whispering among themselves, because dead cities have a way of making you want to whisper. Ralph Edwards would be coming here too, with his wife and 4 daughters. 4 daughters? Girls? Ugh. They stood there, king of the hill, top of the heap, ruler of all they surveyed, unimpeachable monarchs and presidents. Is this really ours, Dad? The whole planet belongs to us, kids. The whole darn planet. They stood there trying to understand what it meant to own a world, and how big a world really was. Night came quickly in the thin atmosphere. Dad went down to the boat and came walking back carrying piles of papers in his big hands. He laid the papers in a clutter in an old courtyard and set them afire. To keep warm, they crouched around them and laughed, and Timothy saw the letters leap like frightened animals when the flames touched and engulfed them. Government bonds, political maps, religious quarrels, sciences, prejudices, stocks, bonds, war reports. Dad sat there and fed them to the fire. I'm burning the way of life just like the way of life is being burned clean back on Earth right now. Forgive me if I talk like a politician. I am, after all, a former governor of a state. I was honest, and they hated me for it. Life on Earth never seemed to orient itself. Science got too far ahead too quickly, and the people got lost in a scientific wilderness, like children making over pretty things, putting emphasis on the wrong things, on machines instead of the thought of how to run the machines. Wars got worse and killed them. That's what the silent radio means. That's what we ran away from. I knew the war was coming. I hoped it wouldn't be this bad. But now Earth is gone. Interplanetary travel won't be back for another 200 years. Maybe longer. Maybe never. The way of life proved itself wrong, and it strangled itself with its own hands. You're young. I'll tell you this again every day until it sinks in. Dad paused to feed more favors into the fire. Now we are alone. We are a handful of others who are meet us in a few days, enough to start over, enough to begin, enough to turn their backs on chaos and strike out on a new line. The fire leaped out to emphasize his talking. He was full of that fire, and then all of the papers were gone, except one. That was a symbol too. All the laws and beliefs of Earth were burnt into small hot ashes. Timothy looked at the last thing Dad tossed on the fire. It was a map of the United States. I wrinkled and distorted itself hotly and was gone like a warm black butterfly. Timothy had to turn his head away and swallow hard. Dad got up. Come along, all of you. Here, Alice, come along now. I'm going to show you the Martians. Robert was crying loudly, and Dad picked him up and carried him, and they walked down through the ruins to the canal. The night came down around them, and they were stars, but Timothy couldn't find Earth. Had already set. That was something to think about. It had already set. The cool night wind blew around them, and as they walked, Dad said, Your mother and I will teach you. Perhaps we'll fail. I think not. We've had experience. We've seen. We planned this trip years ago, even before you were born. Even if there hadn't been a war, we'd have come to Mars to live and form our own standard of living. It would have been another 100 years before Mars would have been poisoned by Earth's civilization. Now, of course, they reached the canal. It was long and straight and cool and wet and reflective in the night. I've always wanted to see a Martian, Dad. Where are they? You promised. There they are, Michael. Dad pointed straight down. The Martians were there, all right. It sent the thrill chasing through Timothy. The Martians were there, in the canal, reflected in the water. Timothy, and Michael, and Robert, and Mom, and Dad. The Martians stared back at them for a long, long, silent time from the rippling water. And so the picnic ends in silence. Mars claiming its visitors forever. Bradbury's The Million-Year Picnic leaves us haunted. Thank you for joining me at Stag Brewery and Dallas Bada Cafe. Till next time, keep your eyes on the horizon, and good night.